All right, today we are jumping headfirst into one of the wildest, most misunderstood texts out there, William Blake's The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Now, let's get one thing straight. This is not a holy book. Far from it. It's actually a poetic explosion, a full-on assault on everything we think we know about good and evil. It's Blake's radical challenge to, well, all of morality. And it all boils down to one central, earth-shattering idea. Boom, right there. Without contraries is no progression. This one line is basically Blake's entire argument in a nutshell. It's the engine driving his whole philosophy. What's he saying? He's saying that progress, growth, life itself, none of it happens without this constant, dynamic push and pull between opposites. It's not about good winning or evil winning. It's about embracing that struggle, that tension. That is the core idea we're going to unpack. So yeah, Blake doesn't see a battle to the death here. He sees a marriage of heaven and hell. Think about that. He believed that this very tension, this friction between things we label as opposites, isn't something to be resolved. It's the fundamental force, the very engine that drives all of creation, that drives our own consciousness. Okay, so what exactly does he mean by contraries? Well, look at these pairings: attraction and repulsion, reason and energy, love and hate. For Blake, these aren't just good guys versus bad guys. No way. They are both essential forces. The whole point isn't for one to finally crush the other. The real insight here, the big takeaway, is that they're eternal wrestling match. That's what makes us human. And here's the traditional setup, right? The worldview that Blake is getting ready to just completely demolish. On one side, you've got heaven. It's all about the soul, it's passive, it's governed by calm, cool reason. And of course, it's all labeled good. But then you have hell. Ooh, that's the body. It's active, it's messy, it's driven by raw, chaotic energy. And you guessed it, it gets branded evil. For Blake, this neat little separation wasn't just wrong, it was a catastrophic mistake. So to fix this giant error, Blake does something completely audacious. He hands the microphone over to the devil. Now, we're not talking about a literal pitchfork-wielding devil here. Think of it more as a symbolic voice, the voice for all the stuff humanity had pushed down and repressed. The energy, the creativity, the passion, the very side of us that conventional religion had pointed a finger at and condemned. And speaking from this devil's perspective, Blake lays out what he calls the three big errors you'll find in pretty much all religious texts. Error number 1, the idea that your body and your soul are totally separate entities. Error number 2, that all your energy and passion, that's evil and comes from the body, while your reason, that's good and comes from the soul. And the third, and maybe the most terrifying one, the idea that God is going to punish you forever just for following your most basic, vital, energetic instincts. But then Blake flips the script. For every error, he gives us a radical truth. He says, look, man has no body separate from his soul. The body is just the part of the soul you can actually see and touch. And energy? It's not evil, it's the only life there is. Reason is just its container, its boundary. And this leads to his most revolutionary idea of all. Energy isn't some sin you get punished for. Nope, energy is eternal delight. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Those who restrain desire do so because theirs is weak enough to be restrained. Wow. With just one sentence, Blake completely turns morality on its head. He's basically saying that holding back your passion isn't some sign of holiness or strength. It's actually a sign that your passions weren't that strong in the first place. The people who are truly alive, he says, don't kill their desires, they use them. They harness that energy. And to back this up, Blake does this absolutely brilliant takedown of John Milton's famous epic, Paradise Lost. He points out something fascinating. Milton, a super religious guy, whenever he wrote about God or the angels, his writing felt kind of restrained, like he was writing in fetters or chains. But whenever he wrote about Satan and hell, oh man, the language just explodes. It becomes powerful, free, and bursting with this incredible energy. So, why is that? The answer, according to Blake, is simple. It's because Milton was a true poet. And as a true poet, he was secretly on the devil's team without even knowing it. He was instinctively drawn to that creative, chaotic energy, the very thing Blake calls hell. And that's the whole point, isn't it? True genius, real artistry, it doesn't come from following the rules. It comes from that wild, untamed, even diabolical energy, whether the artist wants to admit it or not. Okay, so Blake's laid out his whole philosophy. Now he gives us something like a user's manual for living an authentic life. He calls them the Proverbs of Hell. But listen, these are not your typical gentle proverbs. They aren't rules to follow. They're like little firecrackers of wisdom, designed to just blow up our conventional thinking. This one's probably the most famous of the bunch, and it's a direct shot at the whole idea of everything in moderation. Think about it. Blake is saying you never figure out what's enough until you've had too much. You can't discover your own limits by just playing it safe all the time. Real wisdom, he argues, isn't found in being cautious. It's found by going out there, pushing the boundaries, and learning from all of it, especially from excess. Now, this one is a zinger. It's a really sharp critique of our social institutions. Blake's argument is that the very systems we build to control people, law and religion, they end up creating the exact sins they're trying to stamp out. It's like, by repressing natural human desires, these institutions actually build the prisons and the brothels themselves. They create the underworld they claim to be fighting against. And the imagery here, just fantastic. The horses of instruction. Picture these tame, obedient animals. That's all the passive stuff we're taught to believe without ever questioning it. But then you have the tigers of wrath. Raw, real, powerful, authentic passion. Even anger. And what Blake is telling us is that one of those tigers, with its genuine, energetic emotion, is a much, much better guide to what's true than a whole stable of those obedient horses. And then this. Just 4 little words that kind of sum up his entire philosophy. Exuberance is beauty. For Blake, beauty isn't about being quiet or restrained. It's not about perfect, sterile, boring order. Beauty is life overflowing its banks. Its raw energy, its passion, its vitality at its most powerful and untamed. It's the roar of the tiger, not the whisper of the horse. So we've had our morals challenged. We've gotten this infernal wisdom. So what's the endgame? What's the ultimate point of all this? Well, Blake finally reveals it. And it's bigger than just thinking differently. The real goal is to see differently. It's about, as he says, cleansing our perception to unlock a whole new level of consciousness. And here's Blake's diagnosis of the human problem. He says we've locked ourselves up. We've built our own prison. And what are the bars made of? Well, they're made of our 5 limited senses and all the rigid, hand-me-down beliefs we've been taught. We think we're seeing the world, but we're not. We're just peeking at tiny little fragments of it through the keyhole of this cavern we've trapped ourselves in. So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? It's the central question of this whole book. If we're trapped in this cave, if our senses are lying to us, how in the world do we break out? How can we ever hope to see what's really out there? And this is Blake's breathtaking answer. He says the problem isn't with the world out there. The problem is with the way we see it. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. What he means is, if we could just scrub away our limiting beliefs, our stale habits of seeing, we would realize that everything is infinite. A single grain of sand, a blade of grass, it's all divine. The sacred isn't some far-off place. It's right here, right now, just waiting for us to actually open our eyes and see it. And just to bring this huge cosmic idea right back down to earth, Blake gives us this really chilling warning. He says true perception, seeing the world as it is, requires you to keep moving, to keep changing. Because the man who never alters his opinion is like standing water and breeds reptiles of the mind. What a terrifying image. If you just cling to one opinion forever, your mind becomes a stagnant pond. And you know what grows in stagnant water? All sorts of monstrous reptilian things. And so, we're left with Blake's challenge pointed right at us, right at you. He forces us to ask ourselves, what fixed ideas am I clinging to? What beliefs have I never really questioned? What stagnant pools of thought are breeding reptiles in my own mind? You see, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell isn't just a book you read and put back on the shelf. It's a mirror. And it's a direct challenge to every one of us to get to work cleansing our own doors of perception.